Hello friends, welcome to EduTap. In this video, I'm going to discuss with you the analysis of Phase 2 Paper 2 SEBI Grade A 2020 exam. So all those people who are preparing for SEBI for the next cycle, this analysis is really going to be helpful. I can assure you that if you will be with me for the next 20-30 minutes, whatever time this video takes, it is going to give you some immense knowledge about how the exam was conducted and how you need to prepare for the upcoming exam. So let's start. So first of all, I'll be doing overall exam analysis and then I'll move to section wise analysis, that is for commerce and accounts, company law, finance, all those sections. So first of all, let's start with overall exam analysis. So first is number of questions subject wise, that is from each subject how many questions were asked. So I'm very happy to say that overall the paper had a very balanced distribution. It seems that they did justice to all the subjects that were given in the syllabus. Economics 8 questions were asked, commerce and accounts 8 questions, costing 9, finance 10, management 9, company law 6. So I think what could have been the best distribution, they have almost done that, except maybe it could have been better if company law could have been 8 here and finance could have been 8 here instead of 10. But otherwise I think, it's a competitive exam, right? This is not a board exam where they will tell you from each unit this much marks of exam would come, but I think they did a justice to all the topics that were there in the syllabus. Now, I would try to analyze the difficulty level of the exam. So if we see the overall difficulty, now what I have found is that almost 24 questions were easy out of 50, right? I hope you remember the pattern. There are 50 questions in phase 2 paper 2. 18 questions are moderate and 8 questions were difficult. Now I know this is very subjective when I say these much questions were easy, these much questions were moderate, because that depends upon my perception, right? What I find easy or what I find moderate. But as a teacher, as in my experience, what students read, what they do not read, I have categorized these questions, and this would be applicable to the most of the population who is preparing for this exam. And one more thing that I would like to tell you is that most of the numericals I have kept them either as moderate or difficult. So even though if the numericals would have been easy, I have kept them as moderate because many students didn't prepare for the numerical. But if you would have prepared for numerical part, if you would have done numericals religiously, whatever is given in the course or whatever books you were following, I think most of these moderate questions would also fall somewhere between easy to moderate, right? But overall, let's assume all the numericals as moderate. So then this is the breakup, right? Easy 24, moderate 18, difficult 8. Now, what is the implication of this? See, this has been observed. What I observed from the mark sheets of most of the people who cleared SEBI grade A this year, almost 70% is required to clear the exam. Cutoff was around, I think, 69 point something or 66 point something, I don't remember, but almost 70%, around about 70 marks people have got in paper 2 phase 2, those who have cleared this exam. Some might have got less, but then they have got higher in English. Some might have got more also, they might have got less in English. Around about 70% marks you need to touch in phase 2 paper 2 as per the previous year exam. Now in the next cycle, maybe the exam is very difficult, even 50% can be enough, but let's not go into that. Now, how could one has obtained this 70% mark? See, here the accuracy becomes the key, because when you are attempting easier questions, you need to be pretty sure that whatever you are marking is right. So here I think you need 90% accuracy in the easy questions. Because with 90% accuracy, say if you do 22 questions right here and 2 questions wrong here, you will near about score 43 here from easy questions. And in this moderate questions, you need near about 70 to 75% accuracy. If you get say 70 or 75% accuracy, you would be scoring somewhere around say 18 out of 13 correct. That is 70% accuracy almost. So that is like 26 marks. Then 5 wrong, you will be deducting around 3 marks. So it would be around 24 marks from the moderate section from these 18 questions. Right. So that becomes a total of 67. So that was a good score. And in the difficult section, I think the key was not to lose marks. So you might not have attempted it, that's okay. But if you would have attempted it wrong, then it would have led to wrong marks, negative marks being there in your kitty, which would have further taken your score to a lower level. So overall, this could have been the strategy. Again, whatever has been their strategy, it was their strategy. What I'm telling you, that what I find is that there would be some moderate or difficult questions, but we cannot let go away the easier ones. There we need very high accuracy, right? If we are reading so much content, so much knowledge we are gaining, we should be sure that easier questions we are doing it like this, but with care, with caution. Now, what is the weightage of numerical ask? Now, after phase one, paper two, there was hell lot of euphoria that now anybody can clear SEBI now. There is no use of studying, numerical are not being asked. But I think they turned the tables in the phase two, paper two. And you could see in phase two, paper two, there were around 11 numerical. From this chart, you can see from finance, there were two, right? But majority of them were from costing and commerce. That is 4 and 5 respectively. And that is understandable, because these are the two subjects which are total numerical heavy, I would say. I mean, these subjects cannot be studied if you're just planning to study theory. I mean, these are not that kind of subjects, right? So one thing you should, I mean, directly put it in your mind, whatever others will tell you, that costing, commerce and accounts, these are two subjects you cannot afford to read without looking at the numerical. That would be totally catastrophic, right? So you don't leave numerical. That's the key you need to take from here. I'm not saying next year there would again be 11 numerical or 5 numerical or 15 numerical, but try to understand you are preparing from every angle. Irrespective of what is in the store next year, you should understand that this exam cannot be prepared without preparing for numerical. And when I say preparing for numerical, it doesn't mean that you have to solve some big numerical, you have to practice some thousand numerical. No, just do the basics. Just do the basic numerical and practice them a lot, maybe 5 6 of each type, and that shall be sufficient. Weightage of current versus static. Now this was again a point of discussion before the SEBI exam. Will SEBI notifications come? Will RBI notifications come? Well, in phase 2, paper 2, that was held in 2020, no questions from current affairs was there in phase 2, paper 2, right? Maybe even if one was there, maybe I'm though all the questions were static, but maybe some static was related to current and I am not able to view that from that angle. Maybe one question would have been there, but according to me, no question was there from the current part. So the learning is, again, we cannot say that next year also there would not be any current affairs, but the learning I want to give you is that take current affairs on low priority, because the syllabus is such. From commerce and accounts, commerce and accounts, company law, economics. This economics is economics, not ESI, right? In ESI, there are a lot of reports and schemes related to social issues, but in economics, there is not much current affairs. There are, but they are not many, right? Commerce and accounts, no current affairs. Costing, no current affairs. Management, no current affairs. Company law, almost no current affairs. Even if there are amendments, that is part of static. So what I'm trying to say, that it is logical, and therefore it happened in exam also, that there was no question in current affairs. So even if you want to read current affairs related to finance, which can be asked, right? RBI notifications or SEBI notifications related to stock market or something, do read them if you want to. There is no harm in that, but do take it low on priority. After covering the entire other things, you can go for these current affairs. Do take them low on priority. Then one very important observation, which I am not sure how many of you have taken a note of, that repeat questions. Repeat questions means there have been questions asked in SEBI grade A 2022 phase 2 paper 2 exam that were already asked in other regulatory body exams like RBI grade B. I'll give you one such example. For example, this question: what kind of role the manager is performing when he is representing the company in all industry meetings? First of all, this question confused everyone. Somebody was saying spokesperson, somebody was saying figurehead. There were a hell lot of answers by different people. Though the answer is figurehead, now I'm 100% sure about that. But anyways, the point I want to make is that even the questions which were so confusing for even the most intelligent people, they were just taken from the previous year papers of RBI grade B. And this is not only one question. I can give you a lot of examples, though I have not put them here due to lack of space. For example, there was one question on what is difference between morale and motivation. I think this question was asked in RBI grade B 2018. Then there was one question on which of the following statement is true about oral communication. This was again a question, I think, that was taken from RBI grade B 2017 or 2018 paper. This question was from 2019 paper of RBI grade B. So like this 3-4 questions I know which have been directly ditto language have been picked up from previous year RBI grade B papers, right? So what is the learning we can take from it? That before preparing for any regulatory body exam, especially SEBI, do PYQs of all common subjects for other exams of similar nature. So if there is any common subject of SEBI with any other exam of similar nature like RBI, NABARD, PFRDA, NPS, you should do the PYQs for those similar subjects. For example, PYQs of FM must be done from RBI grade B. PYQs of economics must be done from RBI grade B and NABARD grade A. Right? Then PYQs of costing, economics, accounts, company law must be done from NPS and PFRDA paper if that is available with you. Right? For RBI grade B and NABARD grade A. For RBI grade B and NABARD grade A, all the previous year papers are available on our website. The link for those papers is given in the description of this video. If you want to go through those papers, you can just go to the description of this video, and from there it will take you to the actual course where previous year papers of RBI grade B and NABARD grade are available, and they are free of cost. So make it a point to do the previous year questions of common subjects for other regulatory body exams. Now that was about the overall exam analysis. Now I will move on to subject wise analysis. That is, for each subject, what can we conclude? I'll keep it very brief. I know we guys have limited time. I don't want to make a story of 1 hour. So let it keep brief and just go through it. So I'll start with economics section. Now in economics section, total 8 questions were asked, and this is the breakup chapter wise or topic wise. If I try to map it with the syllabus, I would say that there was one question from demand and supply, one question from national income, one question from classical Keynesian approach and determination of output and employment, one question from demand and supply, one question from inflation and Phillips curve, one question from balance of payment, inflation, fiscal policy. So this yellow part indicates from which portions the questions have been asked. So overall you will feel that the distribution has been very balanced in the economic section. Questions have been asked across the chapters. I think this is what they could have done best, because they have a limited set of questions that could be asked from economics. They can't put 20 questions out of 50 from economics. So I think they have done a pretty good job, and questions were based on simple concepts. So many people who are fearful of microeconomics, I know many people were not able to understand Keynesian approach, consumption function, multiplier, accelerator. But for them, I would say the questions in almost all the sections were of basic level. Now, some would argue that the paper was not easy. Yes, the paper was not easy. Questions were tricky, though they were based upon basics. But overall, I would still say that questions were based upon simple concepts. Even the numerical, which many found something out of this world, numericals were not that tough. Right? So, do not be fearful of economics. It is doable. Right? So, microeconomics is not something which is rocket science that you cannot do. You can do. Just spend some time on it. Okay, overall there were 5 easy questions, 2 moderate and 1 difficult. So I would say that economics could have been a scoring section if one has prepared diligently for it. Next I come to analysis of commerce and account section. So this is again the table, right? You can see from which portions the questions have been asked, though I would refer the syllabus to indicate from which portion of your syllabus the questions have been asked. And these question numbers, right, you might be seeing that what is this 14, 25 and 47, 33, 36. Please ignore this. Actually, these are the question numbers in the actual paper, right? That, I mean, the full memory based paper that we have created that we would be sharing with you very shortly. These are the question numbers from that paper. But for now, you can just leave these question number column. Now coming out to commerce and accounts, you can see the questions were asked from accounting standard related to depreciation. Depreciation related accounting standard is basically now called accounting standard for property, plant and equipment. So there was one question asked from that. Then there was one question from accounting standard related to foreign exchange transactions. Two questions from cash flow statement. Then ratio analysis, there was one question. Accounting for share capital, there was one question. Preparation and presentation of final company accounts, there was one question. So again, you can see, if you see this A, B, C, D, E, F, almost from every portion they have asked one question apart from A and E. So I think if you go line wise also in the syllabus, they have tried to do justice by putting some question from each of these line, because each of these lines looks like subcomponent of this section, right? So I think they have done a very good job here. And accounting as a financial information system, no question was asked from this portion, but I think this is not that important. And this employee stock option and buyback of securities, anyways, this is in line with accounting for share capital itself. So though they have mentioned is it as point D and E, but overall this is related, that accounting for share capital, bonus, rights, stock option and buyback. So I think again, somebody who has said this paper, I mean, I really salute him. So good distribution amongst topics. Now there was one question which is marked as miscellaneous here, because this question was asked from accounting for debentures, and accounting for debentures is not mentioned in your syllabus here, right? So this is something I would say out of syllabus or something like that. 5 numerical questions were asked. As I told you earlier, commerce and accounts is something that cannot be prepared without numerical. Forget about how many questions are asked from numerical, but it cannot be prepared at all. And one common point of discussion between the candidates who were preparing for SEBI exam was whether they should do NDAS or not. So this time from NDAS, no question was asked. In fact, I would like to tell you, even before the exam, we were saying that NDAS is not that important. So it's not about SEBI. Even many other exams which have accounts as their one of the subject, like paper is held for finance officer in Power Grid, Coal India, and many other organizations. There also they are not asking questions from NDAS, and even if they are asking very very basic questions, that NDAS would be applicable in India from which date, like that. I mean, which are just theoretical questions. So NDAS as of now doesn't seem important for your exam. I'm not saying leave it, but do take it on low priority, right? So there were overall, I would say, 4 easy questions, 3 moderate, 1 difficult. Again, the moderate which I marked here, as I told you, they are mostly numerical. If somebody has done numerical with proper attention, this could have also been easier, right? So overall, again, commerce and accounts, for those who prepared numerical, scoring section. For those who didn't prepare numerical, I think this might be a spoiler. Analysis of costing section, right? So again, I would like to tell you, this is the table from where you can see that from which portion how many questions were asked, right? But I would like to take you through the syllabus to make it more understandable for you. So from overview, cost and management accounting, though this is a very basic topic, no question was asked from it directly, but there was one question asked from material cost and overhead cost. Now material cost and overhead cost are not directly mentioned in your syllabus for costing. But if you pick any book for costing, material cost and overhead cost would be the first 3 chapters. Always. So these are the core of costing. If you do not understand material cost and overhead cost, you will never be able to proceed with costing. So we did cover these topics, material cost and overhead cost, as part of this part of your syllabus, right? Because in overview, it is very important to cover the basics. Right. But I remember many people kept asking us, should we do material cost? Should we do overhead cost? And many times I said, if you have no time, you can leave it. But I doubt how would they have proceeded further without understanding of these topics. Right. So the learning is that, see, many a times we put some topics in your course which are not given in the syllabus, but either they are covering the basics which are required to understand the further topics, or either they are indirectly linked to the syllabus. So you should not leave these topics. See, these are competitive exams. This is not a board exam where you are targeting 60 marks out of 100. That theek hai. Out of 10, I would do 6 questions. That will also fetch me 60 marks. No. Prepare till your last breath. It should be like that. Right. And then from process costing, there was one question, marginal costing, budget and budgetary control, lean system and innovation. There were questions from these topics. Right. Overall, I would again say good distribution, because if you see, they have tried to cover almost everything here, right? From methods of costing also they ask question on process costing. Then from this also they ask question on marginal and budgetary control, lean system and innovation, overview of cost and management accounting. Again, from each of these lines in your syllabus, they have asked questions. So good distribution. And as I told you, one question each from material cost and labor cost. Sorry, material cost and overhead cost, which was not part of your syllabus, to covered in a course. So again, the learning is same. Do not leave anything, even if it is not in your syllabus, though covered in some book or in your course. 4 numericals were asked, guys, right? Numericals were from budget and budgetary control, process costing, marginal costing, and material cost. Right? These are the 4 topics from which numerical was asked. Again, costing is something which cannot be prepared without numerical. You can see out of 9, 4 questions were numerical. So, I mean, if you just leave 4 questions out of 9, I mean, it has just spoiled your paper. So never think of covering costing without numerical. Maybe you can do finance without numerical. Finance, what is asked in SEBI or RBI, but not costing. Right. And I repeat again, many people ask which are important topics for numerical. Marginal costing, standard costing, and budget and budgetary control. These are very, very important. Having said that, I'm not saying others are not important, but if anybody is putting 3 numerical, he will surely put some numerical from the standard costing, marginal costing, and budgetary and budget and budgetary control. Even in this paper, you would see. So marginal costing had 1, budgetary control, budget and budgetary control had 1, and 1 was from process costing. Process costing is also very, very important from numerical, but I would say even more important are marginal costing, standard costing, and budget and budgetary control. Right? And then 4 easy questions, 3 moderate and 2 difficult. Again, moderate, mostly numerical. If you had done practice on numerical, these moderate would have been also on easier side, and this would have been really a cracker of a section for you. Moving to finance section. Now in finance, again, this is the breakup which you can see on your table. Right? I would like to explain it in terms of syllabus. I would say in finance, it's not that good a distribution. If you see, they asked around 4 questions from primary and secondary markets, 2 here and 2 here, and then 4 questions they asked from derivatives, 3 here and 1 here, right? Sort of 10 questions, 4 from here and 4 from here, 1 on financial inclusion and 1 on GST. So there was no question from functions of regulatory bodies in the financial sector. There was no question on finance commission, fiscal policy, FRBM, direct and indirect taxes, alternate sources of finance, PPP. Anyways, chalo, these are not that important, but we could have expected some questions on finance commission, fiscal policy, FRBM, rather than 4 questions on financial markets, that is primary and secondary markets and derivatives. So not that good a distribution, but again, I mean, it's not something that that was completely out of line what is given in syllabus. And one point to note, guys, is here in derivatives, if you see, they have mentioned forward, futures, and swap. There is no mention of options. Derivatives are of 4 types: forward, future, swap, and options. There is no mention of options, but they did ask numerical on options there. Right. They did ask question on options there, which was covered in your course, who had opted for our course, right? But it was not mentioned in the syllabus. Again, the learning is same. So if something is given in the book which is related to your syllabus, even indirectly, right, or is something which is basic part of your subject, seems important for your subject, even not directly given in your syllabus, do not leave it if you are a serious aspirant, right? And if you see numericals, there were 2 numerical in total, and both these numerical were on derivatives. One was on futures and forwards, and one was on options. So in finance, if you see, I think there are only 2 chapters from which numerical are asked: derivatives and bonds. These are the 2 most important chapters. Some would say ratios also, right? But for SEBI ratios, I'm taking it as a part of commerce and account syllabus, because their ratios is mentioned directly. Though here in finance syllabus, ratios is not mentioned here. In RBI grade B preparation, we do ratios as part of finance, because there we do not read commerce and accounts, right? So if you are studying for RBI, I would say derivatives, bonds, and ratios are the 3 most important chapters for your numerical part. For SEBI, since ratios is part of commerce and accounts, derivatives and bonds are very, very important for your preparation. Right? Now, analysis of management section. So again, this is the table you can see to analyze what number of questions have been asked from each topic. So from management and role of manager, there were 3 questions asked. So basically, all these questions on the roles of managers by Henry Hinsberg, there were 3 questions asked on that. Then from leadership, 2 questions were asked. From motivation, 1 question was asked. From communication, 2 questions were asked. So again, I would say very balanced distribution. If anything that is left is only HRD. Apart from that, from every portion, they did ask a question. Questions were easier, but options were tricky. So many a times people got confused. Right? Overall, I would say 5 easy, 4 moderate, and 4 moderate also bit tricky. But if somebody had conceptual understanding, I think they would have done at least 3 out of 4 correctly. Right? Overall, I would say very scoring section in the exam. Analysis of company law section. If there is one section which I would say was the most least scoring or the toughest in the exam, right, for those who had done numerical. For those who had not done numerical, even the whole paper was tough. Those who had done numerical, they would have found even costing and commerce and accounts on a moderate or an easier side. But company law, I would say, was something of weird. I mean, first of all, less number of questions asked, just 6, maybe 8 was expected, right? And then what I want to tell is that there was no question from very important chapters. There were no questions from very important chapters like chapter 8, chapter 11, chapter 12, right? So chapter 12, I think, is basically on, chapter 8, if I remember correctly, it's on dividends, declaration and payment of dividend. 11 is on appointment of directors. 12 is on meeting of the boards, and this is on NCLT. So many important chapters like appointment of directors, meetings of board, NCLT, there was no question asked here. Right. And the point to worry is that there was one question asked from Old Companies Act of 1956. So there was one question in which they basically asked about special auditor. Right. They asked about the special auditor. Now, special auditor is mentioned in the Old Companies Act 1956. Special auditor does not have any mention in the Companies Act of 2013. So that seemed something really weird. I'm not sure, I mean, on what basis that question was selected. So I would say that was a wrong question in itself. And there was one question from chapter number 28, that is removal of names of companies from the register of companies. This was not in syllabus. If you see here, chapter 28 is nowhere in the syllabus, but there was question asked from it. This chapter is related to removal of names of companies from the register of companies, right? So this is one point to be noted. And there were 3 questions, right, related to power to appoint, approve, or remove something. For example, there was a question that who has the power to remove an auditor, right, before completion of his term, who has a power to pass, I don't remember, to pass us something of that kind in a meeting. Do we require a special resolution or ordinary resolution? So this I told you before the exam. So whatever you are reading, if there is some power to appoint, to remove, to do amendment, to pass a resolution, there you should clearly remember that what it is talking about and who has the power. That you should clearly note down, because knowledge of that kind there would be at 100 places in company law. That for something, say, auditor has the power, right? For something they would say a board has the power. For something they would say shareholders have the power. So at times it becomes very confusing that who has what power. So please write it down specifically that in this area this entity has a power, shareholders has a power, special resolution has to be passed, or ordinary resolution needs to be passed. This has to be very clear. Out of 6, 3 questions were related to this, which were very confusing for the students. And there were 2 questions on the section numbers. Now many people ask, should we remember the section numbers? There were 2 questions in the exam which asked about that which section talks about this. So they were directly asking which section number talks about this. So yes, section numbers are important, but then you need to be choosy which section numbers to remember. Maybe you are not able to remember all the sections, but you need to put an effort to remember at least some of the sections. Right? So overall, there was just one easy question, two moderate and three difficult. And I think the difficulty level was raised because one question was from Old Companies Act and one question was completely out of syllabus. These two questions, I think most of the students did not attempt. Right? And again, the difficulty level was further raised because when you ask questions related to who has the power and there are names like board, auditor, shareholders, it becomes really confusing. So company law overall is an easy subject, but it can be very confusing when it comes to attempting questions. So please be careful when you read something. Read it very carefully. Right. Now I would give some closing comments, guys. First is I'll just summarize what we have talked in this video. Accuracy is the key. Take current affairs on low priority. Do all the PYQs for FM, costing, company law, commerce, whatever you can find for other exams like RBI, NABARD, PFRD, NPS, etc. Paper was mostly from syllabus except two or three instances what I told you, but that is part of every exam, right? And try to cover the syllabus holistically. Even the basic chapters which are not given in syllabus needs to be covered. So do not try to find any shortcuts. I would say that I would do only easy chapters. That is just a waste of time. You will prepare for 1 year and you will get nothing. So preparation should be holistic, comprehensive, right? This I've talked. So cover the topics which are not even part of syllabus but are on basics. For example, in your commerce and accounts, there is no mention of journal entries, ledgers, trial balance, rectification errors. But these kind of questions can be asked in the exam because they are not mentioned in syllabus, but they are very core of commerce and accounts. Then numerical, I think this is something which can help you in selection rather than it can take you one leap forward if you can attempt numerical, which others are not doing. Attempt as many MCQs as possible before the exam. Last year, what we find is that 20 plus MCQs were directly from EduTab's MCQ course or regular course. Now, it is not something I'm giving credit to EduTab. But the point is that they put so many standard questions which are available all over the internet, all over the books, right? That if anybody frames 10,000 questions, 5,000 questions, there would be direct hit questions in the exam from that. So do as many MCQs from wherever you can find. They are putting some standard questions in the exam and I'm sure that 15-20 you will get a direct hit in the exam. And do not cram them, try to understand them, right? You will never be able to pass this exam by just cramming the answers because even if direct questions are there, I mean, they can change some word or something, they can change the options. So please be careful about that. And one thing that I would like to tell you that this year there was no question from SEBI regulations like ICDR, LODR, SCRA, which are not in syllabus also. But I feel these are core regulations of SEBI. SCRA Act, Security Contract Regulation Act, LODR regulation, ICDR regulation. These are any day important when you are preparing for SEBI. So even if they are not asked this year, even if they are not in syllabus, I would say after you have done all your syllabus, just go through these chapters once. It will help you a lot. It will give you that additional confidence that come what may, I'm prepared even for the worst. And one thing I want to tell you that there were many questions which were application based. For example, there was this question in the exam: as per law, what is the company called when one partner has 999 shares and other has 1 share? What is this company called? Now this definition you will not find anywhere in any book, not anywhere in any test series. This was a bit conceptual question. Now many people take this as a partnership. In the question itself it is written what is this company called. Partnership is not a company. You just have to apply your mind. One partner has 99 shares and another has 1 share. It means there are two partners. Two people. That is possible in private company. That is possible in private. So company having this structure is possible in private company. Answer was private company. So this was just an application based question. There were many like this. But many people who had presence of mind, they did these kind of questions right. right? So thank you guys. I take your leave now. If you have any query, you can call us at this number 8146207241, right? Or you can email us at this number hello@edutap.co.in, and this is the number, right? In case you require any help regarding this exam, we would be happy to help you out. Have a nice day. I hope this analysis will give you further direction in as in how to prepare for this exam and how to score more marks, how to leverage your time efficiently, because ultimately time is a very limited resource and we need to use best of it. We need to make best of it, and this is the video I think that will take you in the right direction. Have a nice day. Bye bye.